Good day all, and absolutely welcome back to a sunny Sunday, South Africa, and welcome back to South African Prepper. So I have searched the internet and YouTube far and wide, and one thing that I couldn't really find much info about, maybe 4 or 5 videos on, is community prepping. So please stay tuned for how we do community prepping. So, welcome back. So, how we do community prepping in South Africa. So, step number one is firstly to find like-minded people. Obviously, people that their eyes are open to the fact that the governments around the world are actually not on your side, and that the world is actually facing an imminent collapse. So this is most probably the most difficult part, is to find those like-minded people. And we have found over the years that even sometimes our closest families and relatives sometimes don't even see. It's like almost like their eyes are closed when it comes to seeing the realities around them. Now we do know out of experience that this is because people find it uncomfortable to think about a country or your province or your state going to collapse. It is an extremely uncomfortable thing to think of losing your home, losing your business, losing your job, losing everything that you've worked for your whole life. So step number one is find people in your community and in your area that is like-minded. Step number two is getting to know these people. Now, this takes an extremely long time. You have to actually spend time with these people. You have to talk to these people. What we've done over the years, we've created chat groups. We used to be on WhatsApp, and then we moved over to Telegram just to make it a little bit more safer for us. And then you can communicate and you can get to know each other, share ideas, share recipes, share how to stock up, where to go and buy, where's the biggest bargain currently running, compare prices, compare ideas. And then step number three actually runs with step number two. Once you've gotten to know each other, it is extremely important to find out what every single person's skills are. Now, I look at myself, I can farm, so that's one of the skills that I do have. I've got very basic mechanical skills because we do sometimes fix our tractors, our implements ourselves, and we do a bit of welding. Now, I'm not a professional welder, but in my groups, I've got professional welders, guys that are boiler makers. I've got doctors in our groups, and nurses, and first aiders. So within your group, it allows you a wide variety, a big pool of skills that you can actually take with in the time of a collapse. Because one person, if you are focusing on one person surviving, or only your family surviving, which is by the way extremely selfish according to me, you will only have your own skills to rely on. But once you've created a community of preppers, like-minded people, you actually have the opportunity to have multiple skills. If you have a group of, let's say, 10 families or 50 families, or like our groups, we have got hundreds and hundreds of families, each with different skills, each with different trades and experiences throughout their lives that could actually help you to survive a permanent collapse. So number four, once you've gotten to, well, step number one, you found like-minded people. Step number two and number three, you actually got to know these people. Step number four is that you need to actually implement the skills and the experience that you have from each family or each certain person, and you have to create like a sort of a mini community whereby which you actually have different departments. So every person in this prepping community will actually have a responsibility. So your doctor, they will be, and your nurses and your first aiders, they will be responsible for all the medical stuff. Myself, which is a farmer, we will be responsible for farming and creating food and producing food. And you might have the welder that will be responsible for fixing things and building things, and you might have a mechanic, and the mechanic needs to be responsible for maintaining all the vehicles within the group. So once you've set up this community, you actually need to set up departments, and these departments will have each will have their own function. Another one that I'm just quickly thinking of is education. If you have teachers in your group, use them to actually teach the rest of the family's kids while the shit hits the fan, or afterwards once everything has collapsed, so you can try and get back to as normal as possible. And then step number 5 is to actually have a strategy. Okay, you need to have a strategy of when things become permanent, when shit hits the fan or the collapse becomes permanent. Now, will you be staying within a specific area within your cities, which we actually don't recommend, because cities are normally hotspots for gangs to be formed after a collapse? Or will you be bugging out to a specific area where the population might be less, you might be safer, it'll be easier to secure yourself? So you need to have a strategy of where you will be going as a community or as a prepping group for when things become permanent, so you can actually sustain yourself. I mean, it's no use living inside of a city when everything has collapsed. You're facing gangs, they might hunt you down for food, versus maybe going out to the rural areas, forming a community, starting to plant and raise animals and all of those things. You need to have a strategy for maintaining the community and looking after them. And then step number 6 comes actually back to, and it falls in line with the first step, is that every single member of this community, or let's call them families of this prepping community, every family needs to take responsibility for themselves firstly. So every member of this community needs to make sure that they have stored up enough food for at least 3 to 6 months. And it's the same with water. What will then eventually happen is, once the shit hits the fan and all of these families group together, whether they bug in or bug out, it doesn't really matter, because it depends on the area in the world you are in. But once they group together, that everybody can, for a set amount of time, actually have that advantage of looking after themselves while you are busy rebuilding your lives, or literally starting over. And then step number 7 is a defense strategy. So regardless of your strategy, bugging in, bugging out, relocating, whatever the scenario might be, you need to have a defensive security plan, how we will protect the community and how we will sustainably, continuously protect the community. And then lastly is step number 8, and this is to make sure that you have a plan in place already for when you are bugging in or bugging out, again depending on your situation. But you need to be able to actually produce enough food to sustain the community. Food and water is key. But now remember, because you're a prepared community, you have got at least 3 to 6 months to actually start this process of producing your own food, looking after yourself. And our community has gone so far that we are planning on getting the electricity going. We are planning on getting people into permanent accommodation. We are planning on getting things back to normal as soon as it is realistically possible. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe. South African Prep out.